They laughed at her, called her a joke,
and told her to leave.
but they had
The laughter didn't begin with a joke, it began with a single glance. The moment the woman pushed open the heavy glass door of the gun shop, conversation slowed, heads turned, and judgment spread across the room faster than wildfire. She wore faded blue jeans, a weathered brown jacket, dusty boots, and carried an old canvas bag that looked as though it had survived years of hard work. To everyone inside, she looked completely out of place among the polished display cases, expensive hunting gear, and customers dressed in designer outdoor clothing. One salesman whispered something to his coworker, another customer smirked, and within seconds the quiet chuckles became open laughter. "She probably can't afford anything in here," someone muttered loud enough for everyone to hear. Another man laughed and said, "Maybe she's looking for the exit." Yet through every insult, every mocking glance, and every disrespectful smile, the woman never argued, never defended herself, and never showed even the slightest hint of anger. She simply smiled politely and continued walking toward the display counter with calm confidence that puzzled anyone paying close attention. It was almost as if she knew something no one else did. What every person in that store failed to realize was that in just a few unforgettable minutes, the front door would open once again, two sharply dressed men in expensive black suits would step inside, walk directly past every wealthy customer without hesitation, respectfully call the humble woman, "ma'am," and reveal a truth so extraordinary that the laughter would vanish instantly. The same people who had mocked her moments earlier would stand frozen in complete silence, wishing they could erase every cruel word they had spoken. Before this ordinary afternoon was over, one woman's quiet dignity would expose the true character of everyone in that room and leave behind a lesson none of them would ever forget. For more than 20 years, Sarah Mitchell had lived a quiet life in the small town of Red Creek. She worked long hours repairing farm equipment, volunteered at the local community center, and rarely spent money on herself. Most people saw only a hard-working middle-aged woman with simple clothes and calloused hands. Very few knew that years earlier she had served with distinction as a certified firearms instructor and later became one of the country's most respected safety consultants, helping law enforcement agencies improve firearms training. After retiring, she chose a peaceful life away from attention, never mentioning her accomplishments unless someone genuinely asked. That Saturday morning, Sarah entered Liberty Outfitters, a large sporting goods store known for selling hunting equipment, outdoor gear, and firearms. She wasn't there to impress anyone. She simply wanted to inspect a newly released precision rifle after reading about its improved safety features. She carried a notebook filled with technical observations because she enjoyed evaluating equipment and writing private reviews for educational purposes. The young salesman barely looked at her before saying, "Ma'am, these models are expensive. Maybe you'd like to browse the camping section instead." Several customers chuckled. Sarah smiled politely. "I'm actually interested in comparing the trigger system on your newest model." The salesman laughed. "You know what a trigger system is?" More laughter echoed across the showroom. Instead of arguing, Sarah quietly thanked him and continued examining the display from a respectful distance. She asked another employee if the manufacturer had updated the safety mechanism from the previous version. He shrugged without checking. "I don't think that matters." "It matters," Sarah replied calmly. "Safety always matters." Her words were ignored. Just then, the front door opened. Two professionally dressed men stepped inside carrying leather folders. The room instantly became quiet. Everyone assumed they were wealthy customers. The store manager rushed forward with a smile. "Welcome, gentlemen." One of the men looked around before asking. "We're looking for Ms. Sarah Mitchell." The manager pointed toward the woman everyone had been mocking. The men immediately walked over. "Good afternoon, Ms. Mitchell." Sarah smiled warmly. "Good to see you both." The older gentleman extended his hand. "The manufacturer appreciates you agreeing to review the prototype before nationwide release." The entire showroom froze. The salesman who had laughed only moments earlier stared in disbelief. Prototype? Review? Manufacturer? The younger representative carefully opened his folder. "Our engineering department has already implemented 3 of the safety improvements you recommended last year. They specifically requested your final inspection before production begins." Suddenly every employee realized they had completely misunderstood the quiet woman standing before them. The store manager's confident smile disappeared. "You work for the company?" Sarah shook her head gently. "No. I simply help evaluate equipment when manufacturers ask for independent safety feedback." One customer whispered. "Independent?" The representative smiled proudly. "Ms. Mitchell has advised multiple training organizations over the past 20 years. Her recommendations have improved firearm safety standards across several product lines." The room became completely silent. The salesman who had mocked her could barely speak. I'm sorry." Sarah looked at him kindly. "It's all right." "No," he said quietly. "It isn't." He lowered his eyes. "I judged you before I knew anything about you." Sarah nodded. "We all make mistakes." The younger representative then asked, "Would you still be willing to inspect the new model today?" "Of course." The manager immediately unlocked the premium display case himself. This time, instead of rushing, Sarah carefully examined every component with remarkable attention to detail. She spoke respectfully, explained the importance of clear safety instructions, proper maintenance, reliable quality control, and responsible ownership. She never showed off. She never tried to embarrass anyone. She simply shared knowledge with patience and humility. Customers who had laughed only minutes earlier now listened closely, taking notes as she explained why responsible handling, education, and respect mattered far more than appearances. When the review finished, the representatives thanked Sarah and handed her a certificate recognizing her years of contribution to firearms safety education. They left as quietly as they had arrived. The store remained silent. Finally, the young salesman approached her once more. "I've worked here for 3 years," he admitted. "Today I learned something more important than anything I've sold." Sarah smiled. "What was that?" He answered. "Never assume someone's knowledge, experience, or character based on how they look." Sarah picked up her notebook and headed for the door. Before leaving, she turned back one final time. The strongest person in any room is rarely the one trying to prove they're important. Real confidence doesn't need applause, it shows itself through humility, respect, and kindness. No one laughed as she walked away. In fact, every person in the shop stood quietly, reflecting on the lesson they had just witnessed. Some came looking for equipment that day. Instead, they left with something far more valuable, a reminder that dignity cannot be measured by clothing, wealth, or first impressions. True character is revealed not by how loudly someone speaks, but by how graciously they treat others, even those who fail to show them respect. And from that day forward, every new employee at the shop heard the same story during training, not about a rifle, but about the woman everyone underestimated, and the unforgettable lesson that changed an entire store forever. As the woman quietly walked out of the store, no one laughed anymore. The room that had once echoed with mockery was now filled with silence and regret. That day, everyone learned a lesson they would never forget: clothes can hide greatness, but character always reveals it. Before judging someone by their appearance, remember, you never know who you're standing in front of until the truth walks through the door.